A mysterious attacker in AEW on a former champion. AEW gives us a taste of a matchup we want to see, and we want just a little bit more. And it's a night of promos with a lot of promise. This is Tap Out Talk, and I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard. We're going to get into the Dynamite 5 edition, 5 years in the making of AEW Dynamite, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We've got Excalibur, Nigel McGuinness, and Tony Schiavone on the call for the evening. And let's go, and let's get in. And when we start, we'll start with an opening segment following up programming on TNT TV designed to capture some interest. In AEW, I gotta applaud. They started out with the Blackpool Combat Club issuing a stern warning to both Wheeler Yuta and Bryan Danielson. Moxley said that he'd be reliving Danielson of his duties at Wrestle Dream. Very, very good idea to open with this segment and promo. People that are watching regular non-wrestling programming on TNT see this and it looks cinematic. It looks like a movie. It's got you saying, what is this? It's got my interest. And then they say, oh, it's wrestling. And they either decide to stay or they decide to leave. But it's wrestling. You got Claudio Castagnoli. Fans should know him. You also got Jon Moxley. Fans casually should know him. Pac, Marina Shafir. You're wondering what they're talking about, who they're talking about. And as you get drawn further in, we get in and we say, I think I'll stay around for this program a little bit as a casual viewer. And it gets into our first matchup. Well, if you want to feature a matchup and you want to keep people with your programming, who better than Will Ospreay and Ricochet to lead off the show? You draw them in with a cinema-type theater performance with Moxley and crew, and then you stay for the wrestling with Ospreay and Ricochet. And these two, this is the reason Ricochet is in AEW in the opening matchup here. It's the aerial assassin in the being the champion versus Ricochet. Before the match, we do get Don Callis backstage with Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita. As Ospreay is getting ready to walk out for his match, Callis says they need to talk about what happened last week in the tag match. But Ospreay says it isn't a good time, and Callis said, no worries, they got to catch a flight. Before Ricochet and Ospreay are out in the ring, before they even lock up, the fans are chanting, this is awesome. The fans are very much into it at this point. Both men went move for move, countering one another, bouncing off the ropes. Very cool matchup where they both handspring off the ropes at the same time, meeting in a pose, superhero pose, right in the middle of the ring. They know each other so well, says Tony Schiavone. The fans are on their feet for an absolute dream match, replies Nigel McGuinness. And Ricochet nails Will Ospreay with a backbreaker, followed with a tope suicida. Ricochet took down Will with a Hurricane Rana off of the guardrail. Ricochet followed up with a senton back in the ring. Ospreay fired back with a springboard elbow strike. Ricochet countered with a around the world 2 lariats to Ospreay. Ospreay rocked Ricochet for a Spanish fly and a near fall. Both champions jockeying for position later up on the ring ropes. Ospreay landed in his feet. Ricochet rallied back with an Os Cutter. Ricochet kicked Ospreay on the side of the head after he flipped off. And then the ropes with Ricochet, and then went for the hidden blade, but Ricochet dodged it and spiked Ospreay with a backside powerbomb and a twisted pile driver for good measure. Ultimately, Ricochet misses a hidden blade, smacks Will with a hidden blade of his own. Ricochet connects with a shooting star press for a near fall, a 1 and a 2. We get a little back and forth. The champion refuses to give up the title. The guys are fighting. Very, very fun matchup, giving us a taste of what could be. I gotta ask you, was it bold to put this on Dynamite 5, a matchup that could be pay-per-view quality? I don't think so with the way it was done here tonight. We get Ospreay unleashing a hidden blade, landed on top with Ricochet for the finish. The shoulders of both men were down. However, the referee counted 1, 2, 3, and the referee ruled since they pinned each other, it's a double draw. Fans very much not into that finish. We take a minute as if there's a contemplation going on. Like, what do we do? Ospreay and Ricochet cheering for the fans to allow them to continue. And then Tony Khan informs Justin Roberts via earpiece that the match would continue. Great call here. As soon as they get into it, both men trading blows, slugging it out. Ricochet. Ospreay caught Ricochet with a hidden blade, but Takeshita jumps into the ring, grounding and pounding, and wipes out Ospreay with a power knee strike, and then plants Ricochet with a raging fire. Takeshita grabs an international championship belt, holds it high, and he wants that international championship. That is a great way to start an opening match without giving away the whole show. We got a taste, not the whole kitchen tonight with this matchup. And it did leave me wanting more out of Ricochet and Ospreay. And eventually, I think we'll get this matchup. Not necessarily at Wrestle Dream, but I do think we can get a triple threat with these three at Wrestle Dream. Not a one-on-one, but a triple threat in which we got some stories to tell here in this one. Next up, we do get the Gun Club in the back cutting promos, a la Billy Gunn style, and out walks Adam Hangman Page and nails him with the chair and starts a backstage brawl. So we get a little bit of that tonight. Moving ahead, we get Mercedes Moné saying hello to your CEO. I've got the truck put together a small package, best moments in Dynamite history. Hit it, Money Mike, says Mercedes. A highlight package is airing of her and her best moments. Yeah, there wasn't too much there. It was a short clip. But I will say, we did get, it wasn't that amazing. Got a little quiet, but then we do get somebody off from the side. Yes, it does, and I absolutely love big business. Please take my card. Perhaps we should talk. None other than Montel Vantavius Porter, MVP, looking to build up his company with a little CEO action. And then that's the end of the interview with Renee, who seems to be all over the place that night. We then transition over to the Learning Tree time. I'm really glad that you're my friend. Hi guys, this is never, ever the end. Learning Tree Chris Jericho, Redwood, Big Bill, and the Bad Apple, Bryan Keith. They're really trying to make this work, aren't they? But we get the Hi guys, we get a little Redwood giving a little promo, putting over Chris Jericho. I'll kind of leave something here for you guys special on that. Ultimately, though, we do get, Jericho coming out saying, thank me or thank me not, 5 years today, but it's also the 34th anniversary of my pro wrestling debut. At this stage in career, I thought it was that I focused on winning championships, that I was nurturing young talent in the Jericho vortex and getting as much time as I can. And now it's time for a new era of Jericho. The Ocho is gone. Time to bring in the Nueve. Mark Briscoe comes out with the Ring of Honor World title match at Wrestle Dream. Do you accept Mark Briscoe? Mark Briscoe makes his way out. He cuts a promo on Jericho. Briscoe says, Chris Jericho, my dad brought us up to behave like men. Part of behaving like men is to not make excuses. The only way you pick up a victory over me in New York is because Big Bill chokeslammed me. But put your limp body on me, but I'm not going to say that. You pinned me in New York in the middle of the ring. Behaving like a man entails calling it like it is and calling a spade a spade. And I'm going to call Chris Jericho what he is for the last 4 decades. You've been the finest pro wrestler on this planet. And it works out good for me because, logically speaking, you should be getting a title shot. And I'd love to put that notch in my belt. The word of the day is consequential. Consequentially speaking, I'm going to put a legendary head on my wall because when I beat you at Wrestle Dream, Jericho immediately cuts him off. Whoa. I don't know. I don't think you can do it. You can't beat me. Maybe your brother Jay could have. Ooh, boos from the crowd. But everybody knows you'll never be as good as Jay. Very smart promo here. Fires up Mark Briscoe. Get my brother's name out your mouth. And he basically gets into a consequential situation here. And we get a nice little build to the feud. Little low blow by Jericho using Mark Briscoe's brother Jay, but it did deliver some heat with the crowd, and he seemed to give them purpose for their fight. Let's move on for another purpose. That is going to be Darby Allin in a junkyard. And he said he's going to be at Wrestle Dream. Let the open challenge begin. He's putting an open challenge out there because he has nothing else to lose. He tells us a story about being on the subway and getting almost stabbed in the city. But ultimately, open challenge, Dynamite 5. Who do you guys think will be challenging Darby Allin? Let it know in the comments below. I'm curious to see what your guys' theories are. I honestly got a little confused on this one. I don't know what direction they'll necessarily go. You could even get, maybe I heard rumors that Sting's son wants to start wrestling. That would be an interesting concept. Darby saying he would never fight Sting. He would never attack his mentor, much like Moxley did with Bryan in a promo. But what about his son? What about Sting's son? Could that be an option? Never know. We then get to Hangman Adam Page versus the Bang Bang Kang's Juice Robinson. They start fighting on the ramp. It's really out of the ring. You think it's a street fight match the way they're going up and down the aisle, up and down the guardrail, grabbing popcorn, dumping it on each other, all kinds of stuff. I want to tell you guys, I like Hangman Adam Page. He's a AEW former champion, tag champion. He's got a lot going on for him. Not a big Juice Robinson guy. I don't have anything against him. I think he's got a lot of opportunity, but he doesn't draw me in as much. I kept waiting for Jay White. He's the main event of the, Switchblade. He's the main event of the Bang Bang Gang. I felt like this was just a bump in the road, a speed bump, if you will, on Juice Robinson. But they brawled. They got back in the ring eventually. The match did start. We get a little back and forth. The crowd was very dead in Pittsburgh for this one. It actually went from energy, and I think maybe all the backstage promos just cooled the crowd off because there were so many of them. The Learning Tree kind of cooled them off a little bit. They cheered, but then they just really slowed down with this matchup, and there wasn't a lot of engagement. Juice managed to powerbomb Page and cover him. Page kicks out for a 1 and a 2. But Hangman blasts Juice with the buckshot lariat and stole the pin. 1, 2, and a 3. Tough break for Juice Robinson. But ultimately, Excalibur saying he earned it. And then, we do get a moment in the matchup where Switchblade, Jay White comes out as Juice Robinson's getting hung with the strap by Hangman Adam Page, making an example out of him. And Jay White grabs and grounds and pounds Page as Page retreats from the ring. Jay White pursues Page. Jay White spears Hangman through a table that Page had propped up against the guardrail way earlier. And that's how this one ends. It sparked at the end. It was kind of a firework. It went up. Not a lot of excitement, but the boom at the end maybe added with Switchblade coming back. I think this would actually be a good matchup for Switchblade versus Hangman. I think these two could actually put on some fun stuff for us to watch on future programming. And speaking of up next on future programming, we get the Professor versus the Doctor. We did get a quick promo before this real quick of Scapegoat Jack Perry backstage. Shibata shows up, has been stalking him for that TNT championship at Wrestle Dream. I think we'll get it. But then we ultimately do get the Professor versus the Doctor. Britt makes an amazing fun entrance here using a little black and yellow, DMD entering into the arena with her terrible towel. Raiden Britsburg celebrating as she had a very nice entrance, kind of through the crowd, through the tunnel. But Serena Deeb also in the ring. And then the Glamour, Mariah May, was scouting on the match from the front row. The Professor applied a single leg crab, but Baker reached the ropes. Baker used the neck breaker to take Deep down. Deep nailed Baker with a chop block, then a lariat. Baker served up a sling blade and then a Fishman neck breaker. Kind of a fun matchup here between these two. I like their mixing and meshing well together. Deeb rallied back with a dragon screw and then into a power bomb. Deeb drilled Baker with a German suplex and then a lariat. Baker countered with the Deep Tox in the air and an air raid crashing. And then we get Deeb in the lockjaw. and it forced Deeb to tap out after some kicks. But we do get that glove on. We do get Deeb also being forced to tap out. And then we get Serena Deeb blindsided. Britt, after the match, hitting on Britt's leg. Queen Aminata makes her way to the ring, jumped out on top of Deeb, and the Queen and the Professor brawled into Deeb, rolled in the ring. Queen Aminata helped Baker to her feet. We get a little bit of a mystery of the night. Renee Paquette interviewing Hook backstage, looking very emotional, looking very tantrum-like, very upset, young kitty is. But we realized and found the reason that Taz was not in commentary today because he was attacked. And he was okay, but he was attacked and not able to work tonight. Hook says, you start stuff with my family, I'm going to find out who did it, and I'm going to come for you. Who is you? Did we just get a whodunit mystery? Who attacked the former FTW champion, Taz? Was it? Who could it have been? I'm curious to see what you guys think. I kind of have a theory. Maybe it's this guy looking to adopt Hook into his patriarchy. Christian Cage was backstage. Business is at hand at the 5-year anniversary of Dynamite, says Christian. You haven't seen anything yet. I'm the face of AEW now and forever. I am the patriarch. I am your father figure. And soon enough, I will have it all. Hook, line, and sinker. He called himself the reigning, defending, future AEW champion of the world. Could that be foreshadowing to things to come? Interesting cryptic promo by Christian Cage here. You guys tell me what you think it means. I'll be very, very intrigued to see where this does go, and maybe we're just looking into it too much. Renee Paquette interviewed AEW Women's World Champion backstage. We get Willow Nightingale is the definition of failing up, she says. Willow shows up. You're a shady bitch here. Mariah, shut up. Willow smacks Mariah. The women brawl. Christopher Daniel says this isn't the way. Security separates them apart, leading towards something down the road. Leading towards something else down the road, we're going into the club with Private Party versus the Iron Savages, Bronson and Boulder. Private Party hits a double drop kick on Boulder. Really kind of a quick matchup. Stokely Hathaway watching during this match backstage, clapping his hands. They ask, wonder what he's up to tonight and what he's up to at any time. But ultimately, we do get Private Party winning this matchup. They ask for the microphone afterwards, and they immediately say that they're looking at a new year, new them, and they're going to be the next tag team champions. They've beaten the Young Bucks before. Matt and Nick Jackson, they want a title shot. Immediately on cue, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson come out and appear on the ramp. I didn't mind what they did here, but I did feel that they were too hot in the button with Matt and Nicholas Jackson coming out. I believe that they should have waited a little bit. Drug it out. Let them cue up the music for the Young Bucks. And then just when they say, well, I guess we're not getting our answer, boom, then you hit that music. Make them drip line and wait for a little bit. You already mentioned you have an overrun tonight, so you could use about that 10 extra seconds to build suspense and not be so quick with the Young Bucks just running at the beck and call of a team like Private Party. So then, Matt and Nicholas get on the mic. They say, sure, why not? Let's do it here. Let's do it now. But then they realized Pittsburgh is not the kind of town that they should be wasting one of their days on. And then they say they're not going to have that matchup now. They start to leave. Jack Perry ambushes Private Party, followed by the Young Bucks joining in. And then Shibata springs to the ring. Christopher Daniels comes out as the authority figure. And we get a lineup for Rampage, Jack Perry, and the Bucks taking on Shibata and Private Party right there in Pittsburgh. Renee Paquette backstage, and she is with Prince Nana talking about how he used to be a wrestler and how he could get into it with MVP. But MVP then says, that sounds like a complaint, and I don't deal with complaints. But he does. Nana says, who? Turns around. I'd like to introduce you to, and AEW audience too, the manager of our complaint department, Mr. Shelton Benjamin. Interesting note, interesting Hurt Business coming to AEW. We've got MVP, and now we've got the complaint department in Shelton Benjamin. Let this slowly drip out for a while. What I look for in this storyline, though, is Swerve Strickland. I believe Swerve Strickland ultimately will join. I believe he will join the Hurt Business. Think of a Hurt Business with Shelton Benjamin, MVP, maybe a Bobby Lashley, Swerve Strickland, and why not throw somebody like a Leo Rush in there? Nice little core. Got your public, you got your big man, you got your world champion level guy, you got your quick action guy, you got your enforcer, you got it all there, and you got your manager. I think I would watch if that happened. Let's see what happens on the programming. And then up next and finally, we've got the Bryan Danielson versus Okada match. The Continental Championship, we are reminded, will only be in stake at the first 20 minutes of the matchup. If it goes past that, then that title will not be on the line. A little bit of a back and forth early on. Okada was wrestling defensively, perhaps trying to run out the clock, trying not to get into a quick pin with Bryan Danielson. He dropped Okada through the ropes. Okada flapjacks Danielson onto the mat. I will say, I want to applaud AEW for putting Bryan Danielson in the main event since he is on TV in a championship match. But not just him. Danielson and Okada looks very good on paper. And you got the Continental Championship being represented along with the AEW World Champion. You know how it's going to end, but it's still for good measure. And then also, we got Danielson whipping Okada into the barricade. Danielson follows up with a tope suicida. Danielson drop kicked Okada in the back. At the 16-minute mark, Danielson and Okada traded open hand strikes. We're getting close to that 20 minutes. Okada drop kicked and slammed him. Bryan counters the Rainmaker, attempted with the elbow drop. Bryan Danielson applied the LeBell Lock at 19 minutes. Okada got his boot on the rope. Danielson smashed Okada with a running knee, a la Daniel Bryson vintage. Okada rolled out on the floor with 10 seconds remaining, stalling out the clock. 20 minutes is over, and Okada's championship is safe. Okada has nothing to lose. Danielson jumped from the top rope, and then Danielson nailed him with a pile driver on a steel chair. The fans chant, "This is awesome." Back in the ring, Danielson hits Okada with chops, hits another. Okada dazed with a forearm strike. So we just got a regular match at this point. Okada with a Rainmaker lariat of his own. Okada planted Danielson on his neck. Claudio Castagnoli, Pac, walked to ringside area. Danielson managed to grab Okada in the backslide and score a pinfall. Danielson is still the champion, and they were trying to intimidate both of them, knowing that Jon Moxley is right around the corner, said Tony Schiavone. The speculation, Tony, but whatever the intention was, is a distraction. Okada that allowed Danielson to capture the backslide. Ultimately, Claudio and Pac coming in. We get a little interaction back and forth, saying that we're going to force Mox's hand in this situation. Wheeler Yuta springs to the ring, all dressed in black. Wheeler Yuta gets in the ring with a hammer to come to the aid of Bryan Danielson. Moxley, Marina, Pac, Claudio retreated from Wheeler Yuta. Moxley snuck up behind Wheeler and dared Wheeler to use the hammer. Danielson and Yuta brawl with Pac and Claudio as Moxley retrieved the hammer from Yuta. Wheeler Yuta then says, "Claudio, Pac, I'm sick and tired of the two of you treating me like a child. I'm not a child. I'm my own man. I can make my own decisions and my own fights." And speaking of fights, next week, Title Tuesday, if the two of you want to get with me and Bryan Danielson, you have to go through me. Next week, Title Tuesday, Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta against Claudio and Pac. Well, this match is official by Tony Khan. That's Dynamite going off the air. But before we go off the air here, we're going to get into our final thoughts on AEW 5. If you like AEW, hit that like button. If you like wrestling, hey, thank you to all the new subscribers of the channel. I greatly appreciate it. I love our interactions. Let's talk more about it. Let's get into our final thoughts. Bryan Danielson being featured in the main event of an AEW Dynamite anniversary show is exactly where a championship should be. And in not only just one, but 2 championships being applauded. Okada, Danielson, nice match, a nice match on paper, a nice matchup on the mat. Ultimately, we do get a little background with Swerve Strickland in the Hurt Business. We also get a little bit of mystery with who attacked Taz. But I want to talk about Wheeler Yuta. He's the dark horse in all this. You notice he was wearing all black tonight. I feel that there's more story to tell with Wheeler Yuta than meets the eye. That guy's a transformer. We've got him right now appearing to be conflicted. That's the thing. He's saddened and conflicted, but his hero Bryan Danielson's back. And while he seems to have a little vote of confidence, I believe what they said in the opening of AEW Dynamite. Mox says they have bigger plans for Wheeler, and I do believe that. Wheeler Yuta, I could see a storyline where Wheeler Yuta turns on Bryan Danielson, being the ultimate reveal and siding with his Blackpool Combat Club members. I guess loyalty knows no ends. But great night tonight, and while the matches were a little lower key, the promos kept things building. But I like the bookend storytelling of opening with Blackpool Combat Club and closing with it. Very good bookend work there. And then ultimately the champion being featured in the main event. You know I'm a fan of that. Well, guys, those are my final thoughts on Dynamite 5. It's been 5 great years of AEW. And you know what? I can't wait for 5 more as we move ahead in the future. But for now, I'm out. Thanks for watching and everything you do. And it's never goodbye around here. It's just game over.